The U.S. Arab Radio Network is proud to offer the Ray Hanania Show with veteran journalist Ray Hanania, the U.S. correspondent for the Arab News newspaper. U.S. Arab Radio broadcasts content Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. on WNZK AM 690 in Detroit, WDMV 700 in Washington, D.C., and simulcast through stations around the country. Programs will rerun from 5 till 6 p.m. Visit us on Facebook at U.S. Arab Radio, and we're also streaming live on Facebook.com/Arab News.
And good morning, everybody. This is Ray Hanania and the Ray Hanania Radio Show. It's Wednesday, July 7, 2021 at 8 a.m. Eastern Time. And good. There's that echo's gone, I think. All right. Yeah. All right, Mike. Thanks, buddy. We're going to be doing a show in a few minutes here. Let me just get everything set up. Hang on one second. There we go. This morning, we're going to look at the terrible tragedy of the massive flooding that hit homes on Saturday, June 26th in the Dearborn region, damaging and destroying thousands of homes on the east side of Dearborn and the region. We have activist Imad Hamad, who is the executive director of the American Human Rights Council, whose home was completely destroyed, who's going to share his story. And we've invited the Dearborn City Council President, Susan Dabaja, to join us. President Dabaja held a community forum last night to help homeowners in the city of Dearborn, where the population is more than 40% Arab American. The flooding issue has become a major political issue in the upcoming battle for mayor in Dearborn to succeed Dearborn Mayor John B. O'Reilly, who announced he's retiring. That primary election is August 3rd, and already some 8 candidates have announced their intentions to run to succeed O'Reilly, many of them Arab Americans. We'll look at that election battle also next week in a bigger detail on July 14th here on the radio show. Later, at the bottom of the hour in segment 2, we're going to discuss the UAE agreement with Israel. We have former U.S. Ambassador to the United Arab Emirates, John Rakolta Jr., with us. He served as the U.S. Ambassador from 2019 until the end of 2020 and was at the forefront of the negotiations. So we'll do that right at the bottom of the hour. And but right now, we're going to take a quick break here at the Ray Hanania Show, brought to you by Arab News at arabnews.com on the U.S. Arab Radio Network. And when we come back, we'll talk to Imad Hamad. I'm Ray Hanania. We'll be right back right after these messages.
ArabNews.com, bringing you breaking news from across the Middle East and the latest on Arabs in America. Get inside the latest headlines with expert analysis and insights at ArabNews.com. Join over 5 million Facebook fans and over 10 million monthly readers. ArabNews.com. News that matters to you.
While we've been staying safe at home, scientists have been on a journey. The destination, a COVID-19 vaccine. This journey began decades ago with research into other coronaviruses. Scientists built from there with months of research and development, cooperation with other experts worldwide, and clinical trials on tens of thousands of volunteers of diverse race, age, and health status. They arrived at a safe, effective vaccine, and hundreds of thousands in Michigan have already been vaccinated. But the next step is ours. We need to get the vaccine when we can. Keep wearing masks correctly and taking precautions until we reach our destination, freedom from COVID-19, and getting back to the lives we love. Discover the facts for yourself at michigan.gov/COVID vaccine. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
اللجنة الأمريكية العربية والإسلامية للعمل السياسي أمباك تدعوكم للمشاركة في الانتخابات التمهيدية في 3 أغسطس في ولاية ميشيغان. انتخبوا المرشحين الذين تدعمهم أمباك في انتخابات مدينة ديربون: سوزان دباجة لعمدة مدينة ديربون، ومرشحي المجلس البلدي لمدينة ديربون: كمال القادري، سعيد العواضي، خضر فرحات، مايك سرعيني، لسام لقمان، ليزلي هربك، وخليل عثمان. للاطلاع على بقية المرشحين المدعومين من أمباك تفضلوا بزيارة ampacmichigan.org. صوتوا بنعم للمقترح الأول والذي يقضي بإعادة النظر في دستور المدينة. صوتوا بالبريد أو شخصيا في مقر البلدية من الآن وحتى موعد يوم الانتخابات في 3 أغسطس. انتخب وشجع أصدقائك على الانتخاب. صوتنا قوتنا، مستقبلنا، ويصنع الفارق. هذا الإعلان مدفوع من قبل اللجنة الأمريكية العربية والإسلامية للعمل السياسي أمباك.
Ziyad brand. Quality products from our family to yours. Ziyad Brothers Importing offers the finest quality products, including brands like Sultan, Kraft, Nestle, Hook, Rico Picon, Donna, and many more. Ask your retailer to carry these fine products because you deserve the very best. For more information, visit our website at www.ziyad.com. That's www.ziyad.com. Ziyad, quality products from our family to yours.
The U.S. Arab Radio Network is proud to offer the Ray Hanania Show with veteran journalist Ray Hanania, the U.S. correspondent for the Arab News newspaper. U.S. Arab Radio broadcasts content Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. on WNZK AM 690 in Detroit, WDMV 700 in Washington, D.C., and simulcast through stations around the country. Programs will rerun from 5 till 6 p.m. Visit us on Facebook at U.S. Arab Radio, and we're also streaming live on facebook.com/Arab News.
And it's great to remind everybody that we're going to rebroadcast this program, as we always do every week, at 5 p.m. in Detroit on WNZK AM 690. If you miss it or you can't stay for the whole program, we got Imad Hamad, who is the executive director of the American Human Rights Council that works with prisoners, the AHRC, helping them address their needs. Am I correct, Imad? Correct?
Yes, good morning, Ray, to you and to all of your listeners, and I appreciate the opportunity always to be with a great journalist like you.
Well, I always appreciate the accolades because no one likes journalists, Imad. Believe me, I especially if you write an opinion column. I learned that a long time ago at City Hall in Chicago. I've been attacked by every mayor in Chicago at one time or another, and I go, why do they not like me? I don't get it. I don't know. But listen, it's kind of a tragic story because I think it was June 26th, that Saturday, there was this huge rainfall, almost 8 inches of rain. And you're one of the thousands of people in Dearborn whose homes were so seriously damaged. All your possessions were destroyed. And, and again, obviously the focus is kind of on you and because you're an example of what people have to go through there, but it has become a big political issue in the August 3rd primary election in Dearborn, among a wide range of candidates who are trying to succeed Mayor John B. O'Reilly, who announced he's retiring. And I can't see how anything else is going to be discussed in this coming election. That flood is a major problem. Tell us what happened to you, Imad.
Well, first, we have to keep in mind that this is the second flood that the city of Dearborn do face. It happened before in 2014. It wasn't as massive. People thought that it's over. It will not. There will be no repeat. To be surprised and shocked that it was a larger repeat, more massive, more destruction, and more spread. Now, the flood wasn't limited just to Dearborn, so listeners can understand the whole Wayne County was affected, and many cities, including Detroit, Dearborn Heights, were also impacted. However, why the anger level was more high and higher much any other city in Dearborn, because it was the second hit. So it's like the city officials, city administrators, the city government didn't get it. Now we all recognize that, the climate change is a serious factor here. It's impacting all the U.S., the whole world, and Michigan is one of those states. You're talking about a very old infrastructure, and this needs to be addressed seriously now before it's too late. Now before people face more disaster that maybe be out of control. Now, the destruction that took place in Dearborn truly was appalling, truly amazing. There is no words that can describe that catastrophe, where you only imagine these scenes of flood houses and garbage all over the city, covered by garbage because people were scrambling just to
I saw all the photos of the damaged homes, and I'll tell you what, in 1997, my home flooded here I'm in the southwest suburbs of Chicago, where I'm broadcasting from. And that totally destroyed my home. But the most upsetting thing for me wasn't just the rain and the fact that the sewers couldn't hold the rain. It rained for 3 days. It was that my insurance company, State Farm, thought they were going to help me by saving me money. They canceled my flood insurance the year before. And this is an Arab American who was my agent. And I said, "What are you doing?" And he goes, "Well, you were saving me money." I said, "What, $20 a year you're saving me?" My home was destroyed. So I had to apply to FEMA. And it took 6 months, because I'm after leaving journalism, I was an independent consultant, and I know what you're going through because the forms, the hassles with the insurance, the argument that, hey, this is, an act of God, the rain, but, local government, they need to make sure those sewers can carry the water away from areas, that are flooded like yours. Are you going through that process even yet, or has that not started?
Well, no, many people are actually. Those who have that additional item protection, they are covered to a large degree. But there are so many people who are not aware of that particular coverage. And as you said, the agent choose not to add it to save them some little money without expecting that they will be dealing with a disaster. And some actually ask the agents to do it. In my case, I asked the agent to do it. Later, when this disaster took place, when I called the agent, I found out that I didn't have it. And I was going crazy.
Wow.
Now, the complication of the issue here. Now, when I talk about this is one of the rare times that you are part of the majority, and the majority who are being impacted negatively with it.
So many people were impacted, thousands of homes, I heard.
Many people are helpless.
And Dearborn, and just for our listeners, and Matt, I don't mean to cut you off, Dearborn has one of the largest population of Arab Americans. So I would think Arab American organizations are reaching out to help people there.
The help is going to be very limited beyond the cleaning kits, beyond the volunteering to help people remove their possessions from the houses, helping with basic things. There is nothing to be done beyond that. You're talking about a great financial loss. People need to have to do major repairs in the houses, replacements of appliances, electronics, etc. Keep in mind that people are used to utilize the basement of the house more than any other area in Dearborn in particular. That's why the forms that the government set, and FEMA or the city or what have you, I myself go through it. I tend to believe that these forms are set to deny people, not to approve people for any help. They are complicated to fill out, too technical, and they strip you. They ask every detail, every dot in the book, that sometimes you wonder what the relevancy of it to the application, to the disaster, to the destruction you have. So I have a key issue here, because many people in 2014 applied for FEMA, and very low percentage did get the help. So most of it, let's put it this way, let's face it, it's a total loss. I'm been scrambling for a week, just trying to clean, just trying to repair what I can. And I'm hit hard. And when I say this, when I say I know I'm speaking on behalf of thousands. Yeah,
and I know we got a lot of people that are obviously trying to call. We can't take everybody's call because this has become a big political issue, hasn't it, in this election coming up August 3rd?
True. And I think this is where I think the key challenge here. Nobody, we have to look at it as this. This is a collective responsibility. The local government, the county government, the state government must be held accountable. And that's why, people, and we did too, ask for an independent, transparent investigation, a thorough evaluation, what happened, why it did happen again, etc., etc. So the investigation is one. Second, unfortunately, because we're going through a primary elections and it's a heated competition on the mayoral bid in particular, I think many people within these camps, political camps, use this to target a single candidate and trying to put a blame on her because simply she was the president of the city council.
Yeah, that would be Susan Dabaja, who I think is a pretty good leader. She was president of the Dearborn City Council, and she's one of the many candidates. Let's take one of the callers. I think it's Kamal Al-Qadri, who is on the line. Mike, if our producer in the Detroit studio, if you want to put Kamal on, I think he's running for mayor also, right, Kamal?
The city council of Dearborn.
Right. And you call it mayor or do you call it president of the city council? Mayor.
Mayor.
Okay, good. Kamal, are you on the line?
Yes. Good morning. Good morning.
Thank you for calling in, Kamal. First of all, were you impacted by the flooding?
Yes, I was, like many others in the city. My basement was impacted. But this isn't the first time. This is actually the third time that my basement has been impacted by major flooding like this.
And this is going to be a big issue, isn't it? I mean, that's what people want to talk about in this election now, right?
Yeah, that's a big issue right now. That's a hot topic that everyone wants to hit upon, and very very right. So they have every right to be, and because the city has failed, and everyone's again, you're talking insurance, and yes, the citizens, because 48126 is one of the highest insured in the state, if not in the country, and every little bit that they can save, they're gonna save. And insurance agents, yes, will take off coverage, to try to keep that customer, because that's what the citizens have to do. That's what we're dealing with. I mean, some of us are paying $300-400 a month for car insurance. When you can go to a different zip code, which is like a block away,
wow,
and save $200 a month just by changing that. So
that's amazing. And this is a good example, and it's a tragic example. It's always tragedies like these that drive home big issues. But this is a good example of how do we not sometimes focus on the Middle East so much that we don't seem to focus on the issues right around us? This issue of flooding happened in 2014. Why wasn't something done more? Was it because we drift from local issues and for a few minutes, and then we go back to the Middle East? As Arab Americans, we're very emotional. We're very tied to the Middle East. We want to see everything happen there, but maybe we don't pay as much attention. Dearborn is an exception, though, in the sense that you have so many Arabs there. They're all involved in government at many levels. Imad, do we not pay attention to the things around us sometimes?
No, indeed. I think there is a drastic shift, and the involvement of the Arab American community speaks for itself. As you noted, it's no longer like primarily focus or only focus on Middle East affairs. Keep in mind that the Middle East affairs impact us as a community simply because most of us have relatives, have families, we have deep roots to the Middle East. So we cannot help it. It's part of us. It's part of our identity. It's part of our culture. But on the contrary, I think the community in Dearborn in particular, and Michigan at large, I think it's moving forward. And Kamal, as a candidate for the city council, and the others who are running, it shows clearly that Arab Americans are getting there, are involved. Look at the mayoral bid in Dearborn. There are 6 candidates, 3 Arab Americans, 3 non-Arab Americans. So it's historical. I think people are paying attention to the local affairs, and they are taking even the primary election in more serious format. That's why when this crisis happened, the flood crisis happened, unfortunately, there are some bad apples there, vicious people there. They try to make it too political and use it as a platform to single out a certain candidate and target that single candidate and put them through political lynching. That's totally unfair. I think people want answers, people deserve answers, and this is a collective responsibility. This is a total failure for the city government, for the county government, for the state government. We should, as much as we focus on the city of Dearborn responsibility, that doesn't waive the responsibility of the Wayne County and the state of Michigan.
Let me ask Kamal, who called in, and we appreciate you calling in. And we reached out to others that are running, even Susan Dabaja. I know she held a forum last night, I believe, and I'm not sure if she can make it this morning to call in. But Kamal, I mean, let me play devil's advocate. And again, not to offset the tragedy here, but this is an act of God in a sense. This is like heavy rains. You know, the mayor can't control the rains, but the mayor does have some controls on how the rains are handled. What if you or others were elected as mayor of Dearborn? What can you really do? What could you do?
Well, it is an act of God. However, I mean, we need to plan for these things. I mean, your health is you know, has to do with your, you know, but you still go to the doctor and you do regular checkups and you take care of, you know, your health. And that's the same thing the city should be doing. I mean, the city spent millions on a sewer project. In 2014, I had 4 inches of water and of sewage in my basement. You know, the city came along and they did this combined sewer overflow project. After that, I received 2 feet of water of sewage into my basement. The streets flooded up to my porch. You know, cars were damaged that were just parked on their street. I mean, these are things that the city should be, you know, taking care of. 2014, there should have been a private, you know, independent investigation and figure out what exactly happened before they spent these millions of dollars. You know, I'm responsible for a multi-million-dollar budget. And if I do any capital improvements, you know, I'm not just going to, you know, oh, let me just do this, let me do that. I'm going to get a third party. I'm going to get somebody to say, okay, this is what you should do. This is what we recommend. This will get you by, and this will make you, you know, not have to worry about it. And, you know, in 2014, everyone was affected, you know, and then in 2000, you know, now we're talking about a flood that was worse, but only half of the city got affected. And you know,
is that gonna impact the election, you think, on August 3rd? Is this like the big issue?
I think it definitely will. I mean, we're so close right now. We're a month away, and you know, actually less than a month away. And you know, there's a lot of residents that are really, really, you know, angry and upset, and they have every right to be. You know, I've been into you know, basements, you know, a week after, and they're still not cleaned out, and it's because, you know, people cannot clean this. You know, this is a community. This is a tight-knit community. So, you know, one person's taking care of 3 or 4 houses. You know, they're taking care of their parents, their grandparents, their aunts, their uncles, you know, and they have a house and a business of their own. So this is a very hot topic, and people are very frustrated, especially after, you know, the 2014 flood, and then they spent millions of dollars on the sewage project, which now they're saying this isn't what it was meant for. This isn't what we were meant for. This was for the government. This is the government's problem.
They should have done a complete study after 2014 so that people understand what happened, and they're going to have to do one now. Kamal, I just want to say thank you for calling. I know next week here we're going to be talking about that election on August 3rd. We have Dennis Deno, and we also have Kyle Meelan from Mirror's newsletter. They're going to join me, and then we're going to take calls from candidates, yourself, and any of the candidates that want to call. Some candidates, they just don't want to call, no matter what you do. But I know Susan Dabaja wanted to call, but I know her schedule is kind of rough. And we appreciate you calling too. It's great that you're able to monitor this stuff. Kamal El Kadri is a candidate for mayor, correct?
Dearborn City Council, and I appreciate the time.
Oh, okay. Not for mayor. You're just running for the city council seat.
Correct. Yeah.
Got it. All right. Thank you, Kamal. I appreciate it. Thank you for calling in.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Right. Imad, we only have a few more minutes, maybe about 4 minutes. I mean, what do you expect is going to actually happen? I mean, in 3 weeks, nobody's going to be talking about anything except this flood. And it's going to take you forever, I know, and as terrible as this is, to get the money and the support you need to get back on your feet. And you just represent thousands of other people out there in Dearborn who were impacted by this flood, who are going to be in the same boat. And I know that there's an anger buildup that's going to be reflected in the politics. What are you looking for from these leaders to do for you?
Well, to step up to the challenge and take what it needs to be done, which is running a thorough and neutral, independent evaluation and examination. We have to keep in mind, again, we're talking about a climate change. We are talking about the growth of populations in cities. We cannot take the existing system for granted that it is good for all times. We have to think ahead. And I think having two major hits are more than enough. I don't think people are ready for a third one. And the city administrators, municipalities, on a county level and a state level must be held accountable, must provide answers. Keep in mind that the losses, the material losses, somehow, some way will be reimbursed, will be replaced, regardless how people will manage to refresh and move forward. But many people lost very valuable family items, very valuable, precious items that cannot be replaced, that it's gone. And you cannot bring back family memories, albums, videos, etc. That was totally gone. So people being rightly so to be frustrated and to be angry. But we have to put now the anger aside and be rational, time to reflect so we can find together a solution. Definitely, we as people cannot afford but to hold the local government, the county government, and the state government accountable. And I hope that they deliver this time. I hope they don't put the people through the loops of these technical forms that is designed so difficult, designed in a way just to deny people, not to approve people. So, and I urge people who are running different political campaigns not to use this as an opportunity to single target one candidate. This is a collective responsibility. All are part of the problem and all are part of the solution.
It's not just criticizing the candidates, it's asking, what are you going to do? Who has the best idea? Who's a good? Personally, I think that governments, because flooding is a major problem all across the U.S., and obviously we're talking about it because there's a major Arab American population in Dearborn. And I hope that the Arab American organizations step up to help their community. I mean, just the way every other community helps themselves, we need our community to do the same thing to help our community. But governments need to look at flooding not as an individual basis, but they should have a system to help people that requires people to do certain things, almost like health insurance. It's not going to get better. It's going to get worse. There's going to be more flooding in the future. We see that with the rising sea levels. I know that, you do so many good things with the American Human Rights Council to help people in Dearborn and help, a lot of people. What's your website, Imad, if people want to get more information on the Human Rights Council, the American Human Rights Council?
www.ahrcusa.org. ahrcusa.org.
All right. Imad, listen, I'll tell you, my heart goes out to you because I know what it's like. It was the worst thing. You know, you think about what's the worst thing that can happen, but you're right. So many important things were destroyed in that flood that hit my house in 1997. And I'll tell you what, I got a lot of bleach from the elected officials, bottles and bottles of bleach. And I had to carry the old junk out and throw it out. And all they could give me was a big garbage canister to put the garbage in. And I thought, okay, I can throw it out, but how am I going to rebuild? And it took me several years to rebuild my business at the time.
This is happening to many people, unfortunately. It's so ironic that the Wayne County offered people some cleaning kit, and people were looking at it saying, what the hell I'm going to do with it? With my French.
I know. It doesn't.
And it came amidst a very high level of heat wave that affected everyone.
That makes it worse.
Are gone, and you had to suffer. Like, it's not just one angle of suffering; it's just adding up. I think let's say it loud and clear that the city government, the county government, the state government, and the state of Michigan must do what is right and must lend the help to people and must not let it be complicated on people to receive the help they need. Those who have insurance may be protected to a certain extent, but there are so many who don't, and they deserve the help. So don't fool me by a kit of a cleaning here or a little package here. There is a total destruction, and people up till today, they're trying to keep up cleaning the mess.
All right, Imad Hamad, listen, our heart goes out to you. I wish you the best, and I hope that the community supports you and the others that are out there whose homes are damaged by that flooding out there. And so we wish you the best. Imad Hamad, the executive director of the American Human Rights Council, joining us, one of the victims of the big flood that hit Dearborn on June 26th, that Saturday, and got worse over the next few days afterwards. Imad, thank you for joining us this morning. And also shout out to Kamal Al-Qadri for calling in. He's a candidate for the city council in Dearborn. And next week, as a reminder, we're going to bring on some political consultants. We're going to talk about the impact of this issue on the Dearborn elections and the organizational and activism of the Arab American community out there in Dearborn. Imad, you have a great day. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
All right.
It's always a pleasure. Take care.
You're welcome, buddy. And everybody stay tuned. We got a lot of people watching us on Facebook at the Arab News. I'm honored that so many people tune into the radio station. Of course, they're listening in Detroit by the number of phone calls and everything. And also in Washington, D.C., listening on our network there. I'm Ray Hanania. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to shift gears. We're going to talk about the UAE, the United Arab Emirates agreement with Israel, with someone who knows all about it from Detroit, the former U.S. ambassador to the United Arab Emirates, John Rakolta Jr. He's going to be with us. He served as ambassador from 2019 until the end of 2020. Let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll have former ambassador John Rakolta on the line with us. We'll be right back right after these messages.
ArabNews.com, bringing you breaking news from across the Middle East and the latest on Arabs in America. Get inside the latest headlines with expert analysis and insights at ArabNews.com. Join over 5 million Facebook fans and over 10 million monthly readers. ArabNews.com, news that matters to you.
At Top Rehab Physical Therapy Clinic in Dearborn, we provide effective physical therapy sessions in order to limit pain and discomfort. Top Rehab provides physical therapy care for any diagnosis prescribed by a physician, and we regularly see and treat conditions such as stroke, TMJ, fibromyalgia, sciatica, joint pain, and more. We use a variety of pain management methods, including modalities, soft tissue mobilization, and therapeutic exercise. If you're in need of physical rehabilitation or physical therapy, get the highest quality health care at Top Rehab. Most insurance is accepted, and we're open Monday, Wednesday, and Friday 8 to 6, Tuesday and Thursday 8 to 5, and Saturday 10 till 2. Call for an appointment today at 313-846-0555. That's 313-846-0555. Choose Top Rehab Physical Therapy Clinic on Michigan Avenue in Dearborn. Life's too short to be in pain.
New Dawn Academy provides your kids with a curriculum that's rich in science, technology, engineering, and math.
We want students to really experience what problem solving looks like. What does it mean to build things together? And really working on those analytical skills is what makes New Dawn Academy's program very unique.
This school will certainly provide them with academic excellence, but also state-of-the-art buildings and inviting to students.
Are your hands feeling numb? Do you feel pain opening up a jar, turning a key? Are you noticing that your elbow and your shoulder are becoming stiff? Or were you recently injured in your arm? Hello, I'm Dr. Albajit Katranji, and at the Katranji Hand Center, which just recently opened down the street from the Somerset Mall, we can provide you with the latest in hand, wrist, elbow, and shoulder care. Visit us at www.katranjihandcenter.com to learn the latest techniques that we have to offer you, and I look forward to taking care of you.
Visit us in Troy at 1565 West Big Beaver Road, Building F, or call Katranji Hand Center for an appointment at 248-869-4263. That's 248-869-4263. The U.S. Arab Radio Network is proud to offer the Ray Hanania Show with veteran journalist Ray Hanania, the U.S. correspondent for the Arab News newspaper. U.S. Arab Radio broadcasts content Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. on WNZK AM 690 in Detroit, WDMV 700 in Washington, D.C., and simulcast through stations around the country. Programs will rerun from 5 till 6 p.m. Visit us on Facebook at U.S. Arab Radio, and we're also streaming live on Facebook.com/Arab News.
And welcome back to our radio show. I'm Ray Hanania here on July 7th, broadcasting in Detroit on WNZK AM 690 and Washington, D.C. on WDMV AM 700, as well as broadcasting on the U.S. Arab Radio Network at arabradio.us and, of course, on the Facebook page of the Arab News newspaper at facebook.com/Arab News. I'm very honored to be joined now by the former U.S. ambassador to the United Arab Emirates, John Ricolta. John you are from Dearborn, Detroit, correct?
I am. I'm from not only Detroit, but my family did live in Dearborn for a while back in the 30s and 40s. My one grandfather worked for Ford Motor Company, and were Dearborn residents until they moved to Highland Park.
Wow. And this is your first time on the show. So first of all, welcome. And thank you for joining us on the radio. I appreciate it. There are not a lot of Arab American radio programs in the country. And it's just an honor to have people who dedicate themselves to this country to come and share their insight on major issues. Give us a little bit about your background, just to introduce yourself to the audience that may or may not know who you are.
Well, I was born here in Detroit. My grandparents immigrated from Romania. Raised here, went to Brother Rice High School in Birmingham, Michigan, continued on to Marquette University, the Harvard Business School. Fortunate that my father owned and operated a medium-sized construction company, of which I matriculated into and built my career building auto plants across the globe. Has always been involved in civic affairs. I was the chair of New Detroit, a race relations council here in the city of Detroit, and that's where I really cut my teeth on some of these more intransient issues facing the world and, of course, our region. As you know, many Arabs live in the greater Detroit area, and I got to know and love the variety and the diversity of all of the cultures. I love the food. Met many great people, and we all came together and worked in harmony on many issues that you would think we wouldn't be able to. Obviously, I'm a Republican getting appointed by President Trump, but that didn't stop us in a predominantly Democratic city. And I think Detroit, and through our efforts with public education, and we did quite a bit to save the Detroit public school system, really a great bipartisan effort. And it really pains me greatly that our country has begun to split apart over politics when we should be working overtime to build better relations and more trust amongst a diversity of opinion. And I've always felt that diversity was a real gift that I was given in order to not only achieve my goals in life, but of course the happiness of my family and others around us.
I know growing up, most Arab Americans were actually very conservative. They're Republican. They have the same family values that are pushed by, touted by the Republican Party. And, sometimes we get dragged into politics, but I think basically we're still a very conservative community. And you're right. Unfortunately, politics gets too personal and it gets divided and stuff. You were appointed as ambassador by President Trump, and that's a huge thing to be appointed as an ambassador. It couldn't have just happened, right? You had to have some background in diplomacy and diplomatic affairs, correct?
Yeah, I was fortunate being Romanian, and after the fall of the wall in the late 80s, the Romanian president came to the United States and offered me a honorary consul job representing Romania here in the greater Detroit area. And it's got a large Romanian diaspora. And so I served in that role for 20 years, which led me to do a lot of business in Romania. I had a company there, started a farm, helped Romania matriculate into the NATO and obviously the the European Union. So I had I wouldn't say that I was an experienced diplomat, but I did understand the necessity to listen first, to appreciate other cultures, and to find the beauty in all people. And that was also expanded with our company's expansion into Mexico and Brazil, just to name a couple countries. So I've always been very, very interested in international affairs. My appointment came quite by accident. I was asked to get involved in the Trump 2016 presidential campaign, and I didn't know him and asked to have a meeting, which resulted in a meeting in Chicago in July of 2016, where we hotly debated issues like where auto plants should be built and how would we rebuild the middle class and blue collar jobs here in America. And obviously he liked what I had to say. After the win, they offered me the ambassadorship to Romania. And I went down that pathway for about 6 months. And one day the White House called me and said, "Hey, we got a new assignment that we'd like you to seriously consider. We'd like you to become the first political appointed ambassador to the UAE." And I don't think I had much choice in the matter, although I did think it was a very, very interesting opportunity in a very volatile region. And so that's what happened. Ultimately, I got confirmed and went out there with the full blessing of the president and the national security advisor. They did many things to make my entrance into the UAE well noticed. And so I went there with a specific job to rebuild the bilateral relationship between our two countries in a very, very fast manner.
Did you anticipate that it was going to lead to this historic agreement that the UAE signed with Israel last year?
I didn't on my first day on the job, but as time had passed, and I began to explore the universe of issues that existed between the United States and the UAE. The White House offered me the opportunity to launch a strategic dialogue with the UAE. We were able to solve the big problem of us not participating in Expo 2020 Dubai. And all those things led to a very, very close relationship with the Emiratis. They began to share some of their most inner thoughts and how we might be able to progress. And then there were what I call these 14 factors that were all playing out there at the same time that, tying these factors together provided the UAE the foundation and the base on which to take this huge leap of courage and faith that it was time to normalize relations with Israel. So there are many, many factors that came together to do this. And, notwithstanding, I put them into really three big categories. One, you cannot underestimate the role that Jared Kushner played in getting everybody in line and then pushing the ball over the goal line. Number two, there's a security and defense issue that currently remains in the Middle East. Many countries are very, very concerned about Iran's revolutionary bent, nuclear weapons, ballistic missiles, and the exporting of terror. The economies of the world have changed quite dramatically. The UAE saw well before COVID the need to migrate from an oil-based economy to a knowledge-based economy. And we could spend a whole session just talking about that. The speed of change in the world today is massive. If you ever took a look at the knowledge curve, it used to take a couple thousand years for knowledge to double. And mankind today, it takes about a year. And that change has caused countries to really look at their economies and how do they stay competitive? How do they provide hope and peace and prosperity for their people? Religion happens to be an issue too. And, the Abraham Accords, which I know we're going to get to talk about in a minute, they're all three, father is Abraham, all share basically the same values. Why are we fighting and arguing so much when we're really so close to one another? Annexation is a big problem that the UAE hoped to stop, if not temporarily, not permanently, at least temporarily, until we could get more parties to the table. And then finally, we have to sit down and negotiate. I mean, that's the bottom line in all of this. War is too expensive. It's too devastating. Obviously it harms and kills far too many people. And the only alternative to war is through dialogue, negotiations, and obviously reaching a settlement. So all these things came together. There are many, many more, but I know you have a lot of questions, so I'll stop there and see where this takes
okay.
us.
Listen, the one good thing of being a reporter is talking to someone who understands the news system and isn't hesitant to help fill that gap of what the public wants to hear. I guess the first question I have is, having been involved with the UAE and having been a diplomat, I think that makes it such a different thing than being a political. You were a political appointee, but you have all the diplomatic bases behind you, and you're familiar with the UAE and the Arab American community. When you got there, when they moved forward with their agreement with Israel, did you see if there was some priority? Did they have I know you mentioned a number of things that they were looking at, but was there something really important to them that they felt they needed to do this? Or was it just a broad range as you outlined?
No, I think that expansion and continuing building of their economic basis, their economy itself, jobs, good paying jobs, transitioning from oil-based to knowledge-based is a very, very complicated process that in most cases take years, if not decades, to get done. There's a need to get this done quickly. And as I learned when I was there are really, I think, three big factors that bind countries together for long periods of time. One is common values, and we have that with the UAE and with Israel, all stemming from the Abrahamic religion core. Number two is common language. When you can speak English face to face in a sophisticated, nuanced manner without having to go through translation, it opens up all kind of opportunities. And then economic integration is extraordinarily important. Most countries protect their economic interest, and the more cross-investment trade you can have, the stronger you become as nations. And so I saw that immediately when I got there, that we had all three of these factors involved. And then when you add in the final thing, and that is that most people here in Detroit know me as frank, honest, forthright, direct. Sometimes people would call that blunt. If there's an elephant in the room, let's talk about it. Let's not avoid it. Those are all attributes that most politically appointed ambassadors have. And then this tolerance to take risk. I'm a risk taker. I don't do it recklessly. Try to evaluate the pros and the cons. But at the end of the day, between all of those factors that I've just talked about, plus having direct access to the White House. And I think that has to be underscored in a very large way. I had a personal relationship with the National Security Advisor. We worked on this together, hand in hand. They provided me with tools and mechanisms that I don't think most ambassadors are afforded. And then I had a couple of meetings with the president and clearly understood what his objectives were in terms of the Middle East. And he gave me the power and the authority to go and to implement that. So you put all that together, you're in a point in time where you can now approach, in this case, the Emiratis and have some really great dialogues, outside the normal diplomatic speak. I often ask them in the beginning, where did you want our relationship with the United States to go 5 years, 10 years, 20 years from now? And of course, they said, you are number one, number two, number three, number four ally. You are protector. We have an enormous trade deficit with you. In fact, the UAE has $24 billion trade surplus from our standpoint, third largest country in the world. So they really are our very, very good friends, have supported us in many, many endeavors around the world, in Afghanistan, in Syria, just to mention a couple. So the fruit was ripe for the picking. We just needed to position them. And this strategic dialogue that took place from January to June really showed the Emiratis how serious we were about building this relationship and being trusted partners.
Was there any critical moment that had to be overcome that made it easier for them? I mean, when I look at it, obviously I'm Middle Eastern and Palestinian. For Israel, I think this is a big and, achievement for them. For the UAE, I always wondered what was the benefit for them, but was there something that made it, that changed the momentum, that opened the door for them to go into this as enthusiastically as they have?
From my perspective, I'm not speaking for them, I'm speaking for me. I saw three things happen. Number one, COVID played a role in this. I mean, it devastated the economies around the world, and countries were looking, how do I return to normalcy and get my economies back going again, especially the UAE that depended so much on tourism and trade and airlines and these kind of things. And so that was number one. Number two, I think that the annexation that the former government in Israel was undertaking, making an announcement they were going to annex the entire West Bank, also was a great, great concern to the UAE. Let me point out, there are about 350,000 Palestinians living in the UAE, and they are very, very concerned about the plight and the future of Palestine and Palestinians, and wanted to do something that would at least arrest that continued annexation. So that was the second big thing. And then I think, and they will never say this, but I think that Iran played a role in here. If you were to take a look at the devastation that's taken place in Iraq and in Syria, in collapse of the economy in Lebanon today, there's all influenced by Iran. And of course, the UAE is only 70 miles from Iran, and they're concerned about their own sovereignty and their security. So when you put all of that together, the time is right for them to reach out. Now, one more thing, and both the UAE and Israel are almost mirror images of each other. They both are the largest economies in the region. They both have GDPs that exceed $40,000 per person per capita. They have the best military and security apparatuses in the Middle East. And so it's only natural that they would see a lot of benefit in normalizing relationships with each other. And I think that proved out by just in December of 2020, there are over 70,000 Israelis who visited Dubai alone. And so the aftermath of just signing the declaration has been a terrific and a great momentum in terms of building their economies together and making cross investments in trade and all of the things that go along with it in, banking and tourism, visas, just to name a couple.
I know we only got very few minutes left, and I tell you, I got to bring it back on again. Radio is never enough. When I tell people we're going to do a 25-minute interview, it sounds like, oh, that's going to be a long period, but I'm telling you, it's never enough. I need a 5-hour show like I had at WLS. Any final thoughts on that agreement? Can it survive? Do you believe it's going to survive? And it's only 245 words, I think you told me. What's the future for it?
I think that it's inspiration for all of mankind. If we take a look at the actual words of the agreement, it says things like we seek tolerance and respect for every person and want to maximize the human potential going forward. And, I hope the Palestinian people actually hear this. I am working right now as a private citizen to try to find some economic opportunities and for some projects that will show how important the Abraham Accords are. I think that the Middle East has to buy into supporting science, art, medicine, and commerce, and things of that nature. We need to end radicalization and get back to the negotiating table. And I say this simply, we have to sit down. We have to bring your best argument, negotiate with all the fervor you want, and ultimately make a settlement, because we can't go another 25 years not having the Palestinian people have the hope and the opportunity, the education that should be afforded to them. And that'll be my final comments. That's what needs to happen. We can't continue to shoot missiles and kill each other. It doesn't work, and it brings no hope to the future for the people that are suffering the most.
Former U.S. Ambassador to the UAE, John Ricolta. John, Ambassador, I hope we can have you back on again in the future. It was a real pleasure to have you join us. I appreciate it so much.
Great. Thank you for having me, and we'll look forward to hearing from you soon.
Thank you very much. I'm Ray Hanania. We're going to take our final break here. And again, thank everybody for calling in, for watching. We're going to be right back for just a quick out right after these messages.
ArabNews.com, bringing you breaking news from across the Middle East and the latest on Arabs in America. Get inside the latest headlines with expert analysis and insights at ArabNews.com. Join over 5 million Facebook fans and over 10 million monthly readers. ArabNews.com, news that matters to you. Get ready for an amazing experience at Ishtar Restaurant on 15 Mile Road in Sterling Heights. Enjoy excellent hospitality from owners Ali Al-Baghdadi and Fatty Bottom, serving the best in Mediterranean food. Try Chef Ali Al-Baghdadi's famous shawarma, the best Iraqi grills and food, and the best Arabic and international dishes. Dine in our authentic atmosphere or take out. Call 586-698-2585 or check us out on Facebook. Ishtar Restaurant practices all CDC guidelines and is open every day 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. Have an amazing experience today at Ishtar Restaurant, 3625 15 Mile Road, Sterling Heights. Life is a nonprofit charity that's provided humanitarian aid and development to people and communities for over 25 years, regardless of race, color, religion, or cultural background. When disaster occurs here or around the world, Life for Relief and Development rushes in to provide food, medical aid, and shelter to those in need. Please help improve these efforts. Make your tax-deductible donation to Life now at lifeusa.org or call 248-424-7493. Enjoy the first Syrian-style cuisine in Michigan. At Damas Cuisine and Catering, you'll find a wide selection of Syrian foods and sweets in our menu, like frikeh, hoisin, grape leaves with steak, mashawi platter, hot mahashi, char-grilled kebab, shawarma, and much more. Get super fast delivery from Damas Cuisine and Catering right to your door. Order online at damascuisine.com/menu and track your order live. Damas Cuisine and Catering, 28841 Orchard Lake Road in Farmington Hills. Call 248-987-4985.
And we will want to just say thank you. Thanks to Mike in the studio, Hernan in Washington, D.C. I'm Ray Hanania. We're going to be back next Wednesday at 8 a.m. Right here at WNZK and WDMV, and also Arab News on Facebook. I'm Ray Hanania. Have a great week. We'll talk to you again, everybody. Bye-bye.